This is mpboxing.com. We got Alex sitting down. We're going to answer some of the comments today, some of the questions that have been we've been doing for about a week and a half now. We're going to get to them today and hopefully stay caught up on them. But before we start today, Alex is going to give some shout outs.
Also want to apologize to everybody. I know that I'm kind of late on getting to everybody. I know that it's a big deal and everybody's hanging on wanting their questions answered. But I just got back from the Philippines and I think this is the first time that I've been up past 6 o'clock. So let's get to it. First, some shout outs to Torong City in Mindanao. And I just want everybody to know, I don't want to offend anybody if I pronounce where you live incorrectly, but let's see, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Australia, New Zealand, Chula Vista, Amsterdam, Caloocan, Philippines, London, my people still, Mizoram, India, Melbourne, Australia, Toronto, Canada, Washington, D.C., my little sister's out there and her husband, Demi and Rich. Manchester, I love it there. God, I miss that place too. The food was great. Aloha and Walapai, Hawaii, Canada, Vancouver, and also British Columbia, Canada.
So the very good. The first question we're going to ask is, we had wrote an article and you had stated that the yolk is not the enemy. And this person's been led to believe that the egg white is always the best part. Can you explain why the egg is not the enemy?
Well, first of all, let's always put people into two groups. If you're an athlete or if you're a normal person. So I'm not really as versed as I am with athletes as I am with normal people. So I'm always, when I'm talking or I'm writing these things, I'm always putting myself as an athlete or training an athlete. The reason why the yolk isn't an enemy, because I think it's an invaluable asset and fat source for athletes. So using only egg whites, you got to always remember, if you're not having any fat in your diet, you're not going to lose any fat. So it's very important, I think, to not throw away that yolk. That yolk is very important. I like to have Manny at least have 2 yolks a day in his diet as a minimum, and I think that's a good rule of thumb.
So are you saying maybe 2 or 3 yolks at the most? Because there's a lot of people that will break 10 eggs open a day. So they shouldn't have 10 yolks a day.
No, absolutely not. 10 yolks would be absolutely too much. But 2 yolks, I remember it goes in part as one of the parts of in the group of fats that I really like, which is, in addition to egg yolk, I like avocados, I like almonds. I like getting different sources of fat from different areas. And I think that's a very, very crucial and important part of your diet, especially when you're in that high intensity training phase.
Now, next question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are planks for your core?
10. I love them. And you can even make them more difficult. You can, use a Bosu ball. You can use medicine balls. You can, adjust, put one leg up. You can get really, crazy with them. And, they incorporate almost every muscle of your core. So, if you start off with the basic and then you start adjusting times, adjusting difficulty, you'll see some phenomenal results, not only in seeing the results, but you'll also see an increase in your strength work as far as lifting weights and things like that.
Next question. This person is just basically trying to break into the industry, being a strength and conditioning coach. Do you have anything that you can recommend to this gentleman on how he can break into this particular industry that you're in right now? This question is from Rudy, Ruddy.
Rudy, the best thing I can tell you is, keep up. One thing I kind of fell behind a little while ago is my research and my studying and trying to look for new and improve ways that I do things. So I got back into that, but always keep up with that. And I think sometimes people forget that, I didn't just walk into Wildcard and I got a job with Freddie. I started 10 years ago. I started with Diego Corrales and Eric Morales and Angel Man Freddie, and I made a ton of mistakes, then before I got to Wildcard. And at that time I felt like I graduated to go and I was good enough and had enough experience and made enough mistakes. Remember, don't be afraid to try new things. You're going to fail. It doesn't mean it's over. That's where you become a better and better trainer, because like I said, I made a ton of mistakes before I got to this point. and until you make those mistakes, because eventually you'll feel confident to say, hey, I know what I'm doing. When you say that you can do something, you'll be able to do it.
Well, that brings me to a topic real quick, is they say that champions are made from defeats, not victories. So we're glad that you got to practice on people before Manny Pacquiao and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
Yeah, for sure.
You definitely perfected your game right now. That's for sure, which is awesome. Next question. Why is Manny Pacquiao still doing old school slow-mo long-distance jogging? Shouldn't he be doing HIIT instead?
HIIT, high intensity interval training. That's the acronym.
Okay.
You got to remember, 8 weeks. Okay, you got to break 8 weeks into segments. You can't always do HIIT all the time. It'd be impossible. You'll overtrain, burn yourself out, and more importantly, you got to remember, when you're doing high intensity interval training, you're using a whole different complete set of muscles. So, muscles that fire like that and with that kind of explosiveness, when they get fatigued, that's when injuries occur. So you have to break it up. You got to separate it. You got to have variety.
Now, which brings me up to something, because people are just getting familiar with this because of the episodes before on 24/7, some of the stuff we're doing now on the website, but they don't realize how often do you do it. How often would you incorporate something like that into Manny's routine, let's say in a 2-week period?
Well, it depends. Everything depends, is always broken up into phases. So when you're in that preconditioning phase, it's going to be more frequent than not. And then when you're in that high intensity phase, you're going to use that long distance just to break it up, like I said, you can't do high intensity training all the time. You have to break it up. There has to be a little bit of the days where you're just taking it easy, you're just warming up, things like that. So it's going to always vary.
On the subject of protein, is there a particular amount that becomes too much? And also, how much does Manny Pacquiao usually consume in a meal, and how many meals?
Well, how much protein is too much? Everybody type is different, and every athlete's level of intensity is going to be different. But you have to always remember, athletes are different than normal people. When you're training at the level of intensity that Manny Pacquiao is training, you have a tremendous amount of stress hormones that are created, and those are the things that are a protein's enemy. So you have to consume more than you normally would because of that. So again, when people ask for specifics about how much Manny takes of this or how much, it's always going to change because our training is always changing. Sometimes we're getting into that bulking phase like we are now, where I like to have him consume more than normal, and then I'll start to restrict it as I start to lean him out and focus more on his speed and his explosiveness.
Alrighty, and what do you think? We've talked about it. Is he doing around 200?
During his bulking, I hate to say that word bulking because it just, a lot of people will reference bodybuilding, but for Manny, when we're trying to put on that little bit of extra weight, yeah, we're up around 200, 220 grams of protein a day.
And then how many grams per meal do you think he's getting in?
Well, you got to remember, first of all, a meal doesn't consist of solid foods. A meal for me is just a point at time where he's eating or drinking something, which is a caloric intake. So that is a 24-hour period for Manny because he never stops taking something over 24 hours. Because he isn't a full-fledged, junior middleweight, I'd like to get him to train at that 151, 153, at 153 pounds, because when I bring him down, I think it accentuates his speed and his explosiveness.
Okay. Now, eating simple sugars before a workout, is that something that you believe in?
Yes, I do actually, especially if you have a problem with getting fatigued or running out of gas. And again, if you're training for conditioning, it's imperative. It's an invaluable part. The only thing is you have to figure out, you have to break it down into times. Some people I know can eat 15 minutes before a workout and they'll feel fine. Other people I know have to eat at least an hour and a half because they don't want to be burping it and tasting it. So I find that the best simple sugar is I like granola, I like honey, I like even plain white rice with some salt. And any of those things, a half an hour, 45 minutes before, you're going to see your energy level last a lot longer than it would normally.
Okay, and I believe you had mentioned that Trace Minerals is going to be a blog that you're going to be probably writing this week or next week.
It requires a little bit more extensive, just for simply me giving you 4, 5, 6 sentences to explain trace minerals. So I'd like to do something a little bit more detailed about it, so that way people understand. We'll go over some of the minerals and what they do for the body and how they help and why they're such an invaluable part of your training.
Gotcha. Okay, next question then is going to be applying to Manny what Vic Conte did to Donera, which is hypoxic training that increases the red blood cells in one's blood system and can carry more oxygen to the body.
That's a great subject. I think I'm going to get into that as well on a blog, because I want to talk about high intensity training. I want to talk about some of the myths, some of the benefits of it, and how long do you have to be in high altitude for your body to take a physiological change to where it starts to produce more red blood cells. So, and I want to go over a lot of the new research that's coming out about high altitude training. So I think that, again, that's one of those things I don't want to cover in one paragraph. I'd like to just, really get in detail with that, because I think it's really, really important.
Now, this is going to be probably one of the most important questions for you. Definitely one that's going to take the most thought. Somebody had actually saw a video of Manny Pacquiao training on his first day, and they need to know what was in his hand, the white thing wrapped around his hand for.
Yeah, I'm glad you saved that question for the end, because I think that's probably the best one. It's just a hand towel that he carries when you're up in where it's a little cooler over there where we run, and his nose starts to run, and he uses that to wipe it. So I hope.
There you go. I'm just playing with the person that asked that question, and this is going to be.
Remember, that's funny, but always remember, please, the only dumb question is a question that's not asked. And believe me, if I don't know it, I'll figure it out, and I'll get back to you on it.
And I don't know if I can read this word. Plyometric drills. It looks like plyometric drills. How many sit-ups does Manny do after his morning runs?
14 different exercises, 50 reps per exercise.
Gotcha. Okay. And one person wants to know, how is his beef prepared generally when he eats it? I think we did a show or a clip at the Nats Thai food, and they gave him some beef. Mm-hmm. Do you know how it's prepared?
He likes it. He likes it either grilled or he likes it fried in olive oil.
Okay, and then you mentioned 3 fruits that you prefer: grapes, pears, and grapefruits. I don't remember you saying grapes, actually.
No, actually it's pears, apples, and grapefruit.
I think they were testing you.
Trust me, when I have scoured the earth for another fruit to incorporate in a diet, in a low glycemic diet that won't give you an insulin spike. But that's what's out there. If somebody else knows something, man, I'd pay for that information. But as far as I know, that's the only 3 things out there.
Okay, well, look forward to your next blog tonight. Alex, thank you very much for taking the time, and we're going to try and stay a little bit more updated on the comments. We've been having, obviously, issues with different time zones, jet lag, and then getting Wi-Fi set up in areas that we're doing things, and so it's coming together, and I think we'll be back hopefully in the next couple of days answering some more comments. So
Absolutely.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate
Thanks, everybody out there. Keep logging in. I'm going to stay on top of it. If there's a subject out there that I'm not covering, let me know. I'll definitely get to it.